Hey there! Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCGFAM show to you, my YouTube buddies. What's going on? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it after the show. But right now, let's just get into the show. Runoff. In synthetic type grows, it's pretty common to test the ppms of your runoff, but not so much in a nectar grow. And from time to time, we'll get this question of, about something about testing the runoff. And don't. That's the simple answer. But the more complicated answer of why, Scott really got into that, I thought, really interestingly in the clip I'm about to show you. So I'd like you to watch it, and I'll talk to you after. CJCV4WB. I have a question. Things such as molasses found in EM1 can shoot feed water ppm up over 1,000. How do you take that into account when measuring ppm of runoff and slurry, as it adds ppm but isn't hot like newts? Thank you. So,
well, I don't check runoff.
That's the main issue here, is that the runoff is not an issue in this scenario.
Yeah, it's going to give you way higher than 1,000 because it's also filtering out all the other excess sodium and salts that came out of it. So, and really, you're not taking your slurry the same day you're fed your enhanced ppm feed. You're usually trying to take it the next day or the following day. So, I mean, parts per million are parts per million, and no matter whether they're hot or mild or neutral, they're active, and they're reacting in the root zone to how the plant is uptaking nutrition. So if that 1,000 is, it's not molasses creating the 1,000.
No.
There's a preservative in there that's creating that 1,000 parts per million. But microbes will still consume that, so the ppm should still be reduced in a slurry 4 days later. And if it's not, then you still probably have an issue in your soil that's...
But this is why we're taking a slurry from soil in the top of the thing instead of trying to get the runoff, because that is an irrelevant number.
For us, it doesn't work. I mean, it's literally everything you've pushed down past the feeding portion of the root zone down into the water-consuming portion of the root zone, and if that's being pushed out, we don't want that. And the plants don't really necessarily want that. That's why it's building up. So I would check the slurry in the upper part rather than doing the runoff on that.
Someone's probably looking at this and saying, well, what the... So when you're doing a synthetic type grow, do you do runoff, and is it relevant in that scenario?
I mean,
why
when
is
you're
this
in a
different?
Completely neutral medium, like just straight cocoa fiber with no added foods, no microbes, you're just synthetically feeding, then it's probably more important to... Well, I mean, it's just what's left over at the end when it's being forced through, but they're not... Those mediums aren't about moisture holding and retention. It's feeding the plant, moving it through, and then recycling that food so the plant can continue to eat. We're building microbiomes in the soil that are feeding the plant, and everything we feed those microbes is turning around and feeding the plants. So we got to make sure that the microbes aren't living in these super hot environments or high ppm environments, because a lot of times that'll harm them or kill them off or create imbalances in microbes. So, synthetically recirculating hydroponic systems, they're checking the reservoir. That's the runoff. That's what the constant is.
Sure.
With ours, we're not feeding like a 15-gallon pot in soil. We're not giving them so much water. We're getting 10 gallons of runoff every time. If we were, we should see much lower ppms in that runoff. Sure. But if we're just feeding to hydrate the soil and feed the plant and the microbes, and we're doing that 4 times a week with very little runoff, over that week, we're pushing excess ppms in the upper level of the strata of the soil down into the lower part of the soil, which will create a higher concentration of ppms down low. But the plant still can be starving because up on the upper half, there's not a whole lot of nutrition left from being pushed down so much.
Does this vary any if we were doing a number 4 versus number 8 versus cocoa?
No.
We're still building cocoa, a living soil here. Cocoa.
Yeah, but even cocoa, we're still doing tea days, which is adding microbial activity to a body of medium that's creating life in the root zone. So it's going to read generally a lot less ppms because you don't have excess bone meal or azomite or kelp meal or all the other things that are built into potting soil. But it's still relative to how the plant is consuming what we're giving it, when we're giving it, and the pH that we're giving it at. So slurries to us make more sense for what the plant is uptaking or why they're not uptaking, where runoff is just what the plant didn't consume this week, and this is what got pushed out the bottom.
So hydroponics, rock wool, these sorts of things, you'd be using the synthetic and doing that whole fucking thing That is not this thing.
No.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, and that's their game, and they have a whole different... That's the whole thing is, if you're running a synthetic line of nutrition in a medium that's completely inert, follow their guidelines.
Sure.
Nectar's way is the wrong way when it comes to hydroponics because it's not set up, designed, or we don't test things the same way in hydroponics as we do in living soils. So it's a totally different beast. We don't test the runoffs because runoffs will have excess numbers that can falsely look higher than they really are where the plant is actually eating the nutrition.
Okay, what do you think? Informative, entertaining, helpful? Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. The OCG Fam Show is pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. See you tomorrow.